Interesting project today. Just on a nutshell, in a few words about the community, for those of you who are here with us for the first time. By the way, how many of you who is here for the first time attending an event of our group? Yeah, the Yandex team. That sounds fair. Yeah, a few of you. Perfect. So welcome, and I hope you're gonna find our talks interesting and gonna join us again in the future. Really just in a few words about ourselves, because I do this every time and the people who see this every time are getting bored. Here you can get some impression of the companies that have previously talked at our events. We're self-driving cars one-on-one. There are quite a few communities and accelerators and such bodies who are dealing with automotive and auto tech in Israel. I would say that the thing that distinguishes us specifically is really our laser focus on autonomous driving. Okay, so you have Ecomotion, you have the different accelerators and hubs for automotive, like Drive. We have here a representative of Drive. We have Capsula Studio. We have also a representative of Capsula Studio, and so forth. But our focus is really on autonomous driving. Autonomous driving meaning the things that make the car drive by itself, the sensors, the software layers, and also I would say the social impact of the fact that cars will start driving by themselves, and also the big market, which some would consider even the bigger opportunity that comes in a world where cars, and not only private cars, but all vehicles drive by themselves and delivering goods and moving people from A to B without any driver involved. Okay, so just so you know, who is sitting next to you in our community. So we are, this is true as of yesterday when I made the presentation, we were 1,345 people, most of which coming from within the Israeli auto tech industry, and also a lot of engineers and others who have relevant skills and looking for their way into the industry. So this is definitely the place to network, to get the knowledge, to hear about jobs and talk about, and unofficially in a very friendly environment, talk with the people from within the industry, and to inquire about open positions, and also to get ideas for innovation, because in Israel, every engineer is potentially an entrepreneur, and every engineer is only sort of on his own learning curve on his way to his own startup. So this is the place to get inspired. Our events are dealing both with the technicalities and the business of auto tech, of autonomous driving. How can an Israeli startup engage with an OEM, with the tier one, with the big masters of the automotive world? We also deal with this and bring in the experienced ones to share with us their experience. And as for language, because we encourage very open discussion, when the speakers are native in Hebrew, and since the majority of our audience is native in Hebrew, the default language is Hebrew in our events. But when the speakers are coming from abroad, it gives us actually a very good opportunity to have an English event where we also get to touch base with the Israelis and their Israel residents who are not speaking Hebrew, and I already recognize this part of our community. So just thank you for sticking with us and tolerating the fact that you cannot attend every event, and touching base and attending this English speaking event. My name is Doron TSUBERI. I'm responsible for logistics, basically, so I just make sure that we book the room and we have pizzas in the break and so on. And I'm here really just to make sure that this community is doing everything that you would like it to do. So if there is any specific issue that you want to see discussed on this stage, if you yourself want to use this stage and talk before us about what you're doing within the industry, please approach me, and I'll be happy to oblige. We already have in our community, within the network that we've created, we are already responsible for quite a few job placement, including 3 VPs that found their job within the auto tech industry thanks to the network. And in this sense, please feel free to go on the Meetups page and look at the members of the group, and feel free to approach them. If you are less confident about approaching anyone directly, you can do it through me. I will be able to connect you. Okay, so in every event, I try to go very briefly in 1 minute about meaningful things that took place in the industry since we have last met. Really, just in 15 minutes about each, the EcoMotion, the 6 main EcoMotion event took place in Israel 3 weeks ago. It was a record-breaking event in terms of attendance, and so over 3,000 attendees, a few hundreds attendees from abroad, and it was very clear that to people who are going to this year by year that the auto tech industry in Israel is really maturing in terms of the stage of the startups that were presenting, the stage in the development in which they are, and also the conversation. It was really between the guests and between the delegations from the automotive companies and the startups. The conversation is really more about deal making than about shared vision and values and what could we do in the future. Another thing that took place, just to mention, quite a big deal. SoftBank put $2.2 billion into Cruise Holding, the General Motors autonomous driving division, and with GM putting in an additional you do the math, the Cruise Holding got an additional $3.53 billion to support their quite aggressive and ambitious plan of going to market with the autonomous rideshare service by next year, not next week. They are too busy watching the Mondial. They're not going to do anything until next week. And another thing that took place a couple of weeks ago, TU Automotive, quite a big show in Detroit. Just to mention that over there are, every big show, if they want the companies to attend, you have to give awards. You have to have competition and awards to make the startups come. So there were, of course, awards handed over there, and on the cybersecurity part, you could see that it was almost, doesn't mind which of the contenders would have won. It would have been an Israeli company, and indeed an Israeli company was the one that won. It was Karamba Security. And that's it for the industry briefing. Anything that I missed out? Anyone else want to mention about the happening last month? Okay. So it just yesterday occurred to me that while the focus of the entire world is on Russia right now, we managed to bring some of Russia here to Tel Aviv to talk before us. So, by the way, who watched the game last night? Russia-Egypt? Yeah, 3-1 to Egypt, to Russia, I'm sorry. Though some might say that it was a tie, because 2 goals were scored by Egyptians and 2 goals scored by Russians, right? So, you decide. And so these folks decided not to attend the games and to come here to Tel Aviv, to Israel this week. And I'm quite excited towards this event. Actually, I'm just minute I'm going to take my chair, and I think that I'm excited no less than any one of you to to hear more about the Yandex project. I would say that this event is especially exciting for me since for few reasons. One, we in Israel, we have a tendency and more exposure and connection. We have more exposure and connection, then also a tendency to talk about what is going on in the West. Yeah, the VC's connection, the industry connection, Silicon Valley and so forth. We are very much aware of what is going on in the West, while specifically in autonomous driving domain, I think that the opportunities and happening in the east part of east to Israel and also in Russia, which is more the same line. I think personally, I think it's more interesting. In some of these places, the partition of the industry to the playing companies is quite different. If you take Yandex, for example, which are Russia's Google, yeah, they are very. I think it's Google plus a little bit of Amazon plus a little bit of more. It's an AI-oriented company that is doing a lot of great work, focusing on Russia. And in Russia, there are also what we in Israel call the Get Taxi or the Uber. Yeah, Yandex Taxi is the bigger aggregator of ride-sharing in the whole of Russia. So just imagine the situation where, for example, Google, who now has Waymo, who might one day have a ride-share service, or just now beginning. Imagine a world where Google were also the Uber of the world. So they could not just come in with some partnership. They are the same company. They can use the same data base internally as one company in order to better serve their customers. So quite an interesting opportunity. If you think about a little bit more to the east of countries like China, where maybe the regulatory situation could change much quicker than in the West, then hence giving them quite an advantage when it comes to integration of autonomous fleets in commercial use and so forth. So very, very exciting. So thank you guys for coming here to talk and share your projects with us. And just in case you didn't notice, just to mention it to all of you, that we made a little change in schedule. So we're gonna have Artem, the head of the business development of Yandex, gonna sort of lay out the background for us and let us know a little bit more about the bigger picture here before we dive in. Then we're gonna have Pavel, who is the head of product, bring us one layer closer to earth. Then we're gonna have, this is the Easter egg in our event today. This was not formally previously declared, but we're gonna have Miriam, who is part of Yandex Israel, talking about a very interesting program for data scientists and data scientists to be here in Israel. Then we're gonna have a short break and come back to Anton's talk on perception and prediction. So without further ado, I leave the microphone to Artem.